Hello, good day, guys. You're welcome again to my channel. And in the last few days, we've been discussing hidden beams or concealed beams. So I've been bringing perspective to hidden beams right from the last video that I did on the channel. And I received certain feedbacks from that video on how to create hidden beams or concealed beams, and I can see about Olusegun Kehinde says, thanks for the video. Learned a lot. Keep doing the good work. Keep the good work going. You are impacting more lives than you think. Thank you very much, Mr. Olusegun. He said, what is the minimum depth you can have for beams? That's hidden beams inclusive. I've always thought 2 to 5 is the lowest allowable for even concealed beams. Kindly throw more light. And that's exactly what I am here to do before I'll take Mr. Ogundin Raderemi questions or feedback also. So let's just get into this to throw more light, as Mr. Olusegun Kehinde has requested, and that will make me show you one or two things before proceed. Now, in case we don't know, for many of us, this is the hidden beam we have been speaking about, the concealed beam. And you can see that this doesn't seem to have any thickness greater than the slab thickness, right? So, but it's still going to operate as a beam, but it's going to be concealed within the slab thickness, right? So, this is how the hidden beam looks like after you might have set up the reinforcement on site, right? So in case you're joining me for the first time, you're making contact with Joshua the designer for the first time, I'd like that you subscribe to this channel, like our videos, and turn on the notification bell so that you can catch all of our releases first and as soon as we drop them, right? So we are talking hidden beams, concealed beams in this video, and I'm bringing more perspective in addition to my response in the comment section in the last video to Mr. Olusegun, right? Mr. Kehinde. So I will continue in this video and I'll put more perspective, right? So this is the particular job we actually placed our hidden beam, and this is it. And I showed to us how I arrived at 150 by 675. All I did was to just maintain the area at which I would have used 225 by 450, the conventional one that I've been using all through. 450 by 225, would have just used that if it's going to be a normal drop beam that will use. But what I did was to just convert that, still maintaining the area, to make sure that the thickness is consistent with the slab thickness, but the width of my beam now is a little wider than the normal, is wider than the normal 225. How did I achieve that? I got the area of the 450 by 225 beam just like this. Okay, let me just do this. So 450 by 2 to 5, and the area gives this, right? So but I know that I want to maintain the thickness of my slab, so what I did was to divide this area by the thickness of the slab so that I can know the width now, and this width gave me 675. So that's how we arrived at 150 by 675 beam. But now there is a concept to this. There is a concept, like Mr. Kehinde had requested to know that he thought that it is the normal acceptable range to operate not less than 225. If I get his question very well, yeah, he said that I'm trying to go through his review. Mr. Olusegun Kehinde, he says that he has always thought that 25 is the lowest allowable for even concealed beam. So, but I'm bringing perspective to that now so that we can see. The reason why it's called concealed is for it to be concealed. So, if it's 225 and your slab is a little um lower than 225, then it's no longer concealed, as it were, you know. So to start with, I will take you to through some things, and this was inspired by a friend who decided to bring me into further observations on hidden beams and all of that. So, and I went through, I saw that it was a wonderful piece, and I thought of bringing it back to my channel so that you guys can also get informed in that line also, right? So that was so now on hidden beams or concealed beams. So I have 3 points that will actually take us through and make us come to agreement on this. So the first one says a construction concept that comes close to the so-called hidden beams is the idea of a wide shallow beam or a wide band beams. Right. So there is a concept that actually get similar or that looks similar to what we are doing right now, and the concept is the idea of wide shallow beam. So the beam is always wide, but then the depth is a shallow one, right? So and that concept is what we adopt because it's actually similar to what hidden beams or concealed beams are, right? So but what then is a wide shallow beams? What would be a wide shallow beam? So that's my second point here. So a wide shallow beam is a beam whose depth is generally lower than 350 mm. So please know that a beam whose depth is generally lower than 350 mm and with a cross section having the width. Now pay attention. The depth is less than generally less than 350, but the width of that beam over the depth ratio, width over the depth ratio, that is the width over the thickness ratio, is always greater than 2. For example, the case of what we are using 675 150 by 675 beam, right? So if we are going to do it 675 divided by 150, let's see what we have. So we have 4.5, right? So it means that any beam whose depth is less than or lower than 350 mm and his width over depth ratio is greater than 2 is categorized as a wide shallow beam. So please let's note that. And the third point here says that the commonly used values in practice are 250 to 300 mm. So it will mean that Mr. Olusegun Kende would be right saying that he has always thought that his 2 to 5 is allowable. So that might be some practices elsewhere, but I'm bringing a perspective right now, which is going to be what is applicable. That the commonly used is between 250 to 300 for depth, that's for wide shallow beam, and 4 to 5 for width to depth ratio. As we can see, our own depth ratio here is 4.5, right? 4.5. But if we go by 250 to 300 mm in a condition where the slab thickness is supposed to be 150 mm, it will mean that we are not making any difference from putting our deep beam or our drop beam rather, our normal 450 by 225 mm beam or 300 by 225 or 600 by 225 or whatever it is. There is no difference now. We should have just gone for that or make it that way, So, or another consideration now, because you see that the reason we use hidden beams or concealed beams sometimes is to make sure that we achieve our architectural space, the architectural convenience is achieved, and also so that it can support partition loads. So there are some partitionings that your major beams might not be able to cover for, but then you would need your architectural spaces to be kept and the conveniences to be kept. So you want to keep your hidden beams there so that to cater for your partitions, right? So but in those cases, if you would not want to make your 150 mm flush with your beam, probably it's going to have a little more depth, maybe 2 to 5, maintaining that 2 to 5 or 250 as this one has said. So it will mean that you are keeping a little inches, maybe 2 inches or 3 inches thereabout. In your own case 2 to 5, it will mean that your beam will drop about 3 inches lower than your slab, right? So it's not sealed now, it's not hidden anymore, we are now seeing it. Are you seeing? So that is my point. If you are making it 2 to 5 and you are making your beam depth not consistent with your slab, that means it's no longer hidden, right? Though the depth might be looking a little bit small and it's now looking like you're creating a slab strip along that place, but then it's no longer hidden, as it were, right? So that's the perspective I am bringing to that. I hope this will help you, Mr. Kende Additional. And did I get that right? Mr. Olusegun Kende, yeah. Thank you very much. So I hope I have been able to bring perspective in that regard to your question, Mr. Olusegun Kende. God bless you. So, and to answer for Mr. Gudinron Adiremi, he says, "Thanks so much for this tutorial. Please, if you can complete the design of the hidden beam to the analysis and details, I will so appreciate it. Once again, I am grateful." So, what I'll just do now is to um complete that as he has requested. So now, having completed this out, so I want to complete this so that I'll be able to show um him how it looks like. Now my analysis is complete. If I need to check, my analysis is complete, up to date, so I don't need to rerun it. So but if you had not done yours, you can just run your analysis and make sure it passes, right? So from there we can check our design and check for that particular beam. So that beam is on story 1 and is on grid line 2A. So let's see, story 2 rather, story 2 and grid line 2A. So that this particular beam we are talking about. So that beam is requesting or would demand 5y16 bottom bars and 4y16 top bars, right? So in section to show the detailed drawings, also this how it's going to look like. The detailed drawing for the hidden beam is going to look exactly like this. So I hope this would be helpful in bringing your question, bringing answer to your question. And if there are many more questions that we want to bring up concerning ED beams, I'll be glad to receiving them all. Thank you very much. And if you are joining us for the first time, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. It's a means to encourage us to doing more, to give you more tutorials, amazing ones to make you get better with structural engineering. Yes, and do like our videos, share with your colleagues that should get better with structural engineering. We'll see you in the next tutorial video. Bye.